Good afternoon. Welcome to Rolling Out's Sunday Stories. I am your host today, Tigner. I have a special guest who has joined me today who will be talking about a new book that is out. Anita, and I've already messed up.
Kopacz.
Kopacz, Anita Kopacz, who has been known for years for being the editor-in-chief for Heart and Soul, but also as a renowned writer. And today we're talking about her latest book, novel, which is called Shallow Waters. Welcome, Anita, to Rolling Out's Sunday Stories. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I apologize for the debacle of your name, but
I'm so used to it. I'm so used to it.
Trust me, I am too. We both are in the same boat.
Yes.
I was very intrigued with your book when I first received the advanced copy, and it is a journey of a young girl, 17 years old, who goes off and sets off on a new epic journey. Her name is Yamaya, but it's pronounced in different ways. And tell us, what is the correct pronunciation, how you depict her in the book?
So her name is Yamaya, and it is pronounced differently all around the world. Yamaya is a Yoruba spirit. Some people will say god or goddess in their pantheon of gods and goddesses. She is a black mermaid.
Yes.
Mermother, really, but I'm telling the story of her as a mermaid. She is said to be the mother of us all. She was the spirit who watched over our ancestors as they went over the Middle Passage. And I have chills. I gave myself chills. But so I imagined her in my story before she knew she was a goddess. So
I like that. And that is, I'm glad you brought that to light, because that is exactly how I kind of saw it from the beginning as a young person coming up. And let's kind of delve a little bit. You chose to write about this, and I like the angle of being somewhat of the mythology, the fantasy, and then also you even delved and talked a little bit about almost historical facts that actually took place. I'm sure we can relate to a lot of the things that we studied, but you kind of put together a trifecta of things through your novel. Was that intentional?
Yes, that was intentional. I knew from the beginning that I wanted to bring in the historical figures. And I actually didn't know which ones were going to come through. I had this conversation with a friend earlier that I didn't have an outline for this book. I just sat and wrote. And it really felt to me as if Yemaya was sitting at the edge of the bed telling me the story as I was writing. But I did know for myself that for me, this is a healing story and a healing journey, healing my ancestors' story and ancestral trauma, going back and healing all of that. So when I was writing about certain things that happened within the story, which I'll say a little bit of it so that we have some context. I won't tell the whole story, don't worry. But so Yemaya is a black mermaid, and it takes place in the early 1800s, starts off on the west coast of Africa. She falls in love with the fisherman, Obatala, and the slave ships come and kidnap him. So she has her own Middle Passage underwater. She follows them to the New World. And she cocoons for 40 days and 40 nights. And within that time, she loses him. And the whole book is about her trying to find him in this land where her skin color makes her a slave. So I wrote it for myself, really to heal my ancestral wounds. And so the moments for me when I was writing parts of being on the Middle Passage, I felt like I was with my ancestors. And it was, I mean, my kids would find me like on the ground crying because I'm
Wow.
like feeling it. And I don't think that I'd ever allowed myself to really go there and feel it, what my ancestors might have felt going through that and deciding to not jump overboard.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah. You're right. There were moments in the book that you could really be entranced and taken into, to the point I wanted to like grab one of those slave owners myself.
yes.
Really,
Yeah.
like, why am I continuing to read this book? Now I'm getting frustrated, because you did a good job of depicting and bringing to light some of the things that most of us know about. We kind of heard about it, but to really read it, even though it was in your own adaptation of it, it still was real.
Yeah. Yes.
And it probably was about at least 50% accurate of something that really did transpire in that time.
Yeah. That or worse.
Or worse. Exactly. Or worse.
Yeah.
So you talked about the healing. What else do you want the readers to take from the book?
So my main intention when I wrote it was for Black girls and Black women to remember who we really are. And within that, allowing all of us to remember who we really are. And so how that pertains to what I put in the book, I feel like there's so much of African history and African spirituality that is demonized. And, being raised in the church and everything that it can sometimes seem like we demonize where we came from.
Yes.
And so what this was kind of like waking up to, we can have it all, right? It doesn't mean we can't be in the church and know about our history. Right?
Exactly.
And so I wanted us to really remember who we are. What is very interesting is that the feedback and everything that I've been getting from the book is that it's like so many different groups are feeling like they're remembering who they really are, which it wasn't even intended, right? Like white men, white women. I'm like, okay,
right.
Because there are characters in the book that are allies, and for them it's like,
yes.
First time being able to really delve into the story of an ally. And so was unintentional, but it's a beautiful like side thing that happened.
You're right, it did. And I like that. For those who are just joining us, we're talking with writer Anita Kopacz and her latest book, Shallow Waters.
Yes. And you got my name right.
Yes. It don't take but one time. We got it right. Yes. The title, why Shallow Waters?
So Shallow Waters, because Yamaya comes from the depths, right?
Yes.
The depths of the ocean, the depths of the soul, like just really being in the depths. And so the shallow waters represents her journey. Like she came into the shallow waters and land and so I guess it just represents her transition into this new part of her journey.
I like that. Because true, she spent most of her 17 years in the depths, but she came to the shallow waters when she came to the village, and thus eventually metamorphosis into a being, a human being.
Land, yes.
To land.
Yep. Absolutely.
But then from there, she spent a lot of time in shallow waters as a human.
Yes. Yeah. Don't give it away.
No, we won't give it away. Yes. I see.
You see, you get it.
I get it. Was it in developing your characters, what are some of the things or some of the steps that you go through as far as character development? Because they all seem real.
Yeah. Yeah. So in my character development, I'm trying to think of what it's called in acting. There's something in acting where people really do the things that they're that
Yes.
they're experiencing, and that's how they find it. I feel like a part of my character development is that I really go in and sit with the characters, and even with the characters that I myself might hate, right? Quote unquote. I
Right.
have to sit with them and see, how does this make sense? Because even though to me they're hateful figures, they
Mm-hmm.
love the people around them, and they're trying to protect the people around them in their own ways. And so I have to figure out and really go in and see how one might act, right? When when it is they're protecting their own, quote unquote.
Right.
But yeah, so I would say I really sit and go in deep. It's more of like it feels like a spiritual process for me, of closing my eyes and being with them.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the intent. Are there any elements in the book that depict you in any way? Or
It's
did you
funny.
draw
It's
from?
so funny you say that. So my mom says the whole book is me, right? She was like,
Interesting.
you are Yamaya, right? And she was, when she read it, she was like, I felt like I knew everything she was going to say because it's whatever you would say. And which is hilarious.
Give me an example of one of those points in the book that mom says that's
I
Anita.
wonder, I don't know what she would say was exactly me, because she didn't give me
Okay.
an example, but I do know that for me, just her raising me as a child, I was what maybe someone would call a strange child. I could see spirits and ghosts, and I
Mm,
know things before they would happen. And so so it was I think a really interesting experience for her to raise me. And so I guess bringing in all of those magical things within the pages is probably what she was talking about, that, this character who doesn't know that she's a goddess
right.
moving
Exactly.
through. So that's probably what she's talking about. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What was the most favorite part of writing this book for you?
Oh, the favorite part. Oh my gosh, I have a story for you. So the favorite part for me was the characters, the historical figures almost coming to me, telling
Yeah.
me that they want to be in the story. Now,
Okay.
when I
Okay.
tell you this, and I've shared it before, but it always, this one blows my mind. I was writing one night, and during this time, I was the editor-in-chief of Heart and Soul. So I was writing at night, and I wrote the part, which is still in the book, that that Harriet Tubman gives one of the 2-year-olds, a 2-year-old, a tincture to fall asleep. And
Yes.
I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to put that in there, because I don't know if Harriet Tubman was an herbalist. And so I was deciding to take that part out. But in the morning, I had to go to a sales meeting in the city. And it's at this restaurant in the middle of the city. So there's the restaurant, and then where we were, and then the whole restaurant was still open. So at the end of our meeting, this woman who wasn't a part of the meeting came up to me and she said, "Did you know that Harriet Tubman was an herbalist?"
Wow.
I,
Yes, that is
I dang
truly
near dropped to the floor. I was like, "Why did you just say that to me?" And she was like, "Well, because it's African American History Month, and I just read it and I don't know, I just felt like I was supposed to share that with you. And I'm like,
So thank
yes,
you very
Mother
much.
Harriet, I will
Yes.
keep this in here. Right?
You brought that up, and I liked that one part how I knew it was Harriet Tubman, but then it was like maybe she's really don't want to use the name because she said kept saying Moses.
Yes.
And so, but in my mind, I knew who it was. But then maybe Anita doesn't want to say that it's Harriet. Until finally we go through and then come back, no, my new name is.
Yes. Moses.
Oh, okay.
So towards the after she had been leading people in the Underground Railroad, she changed her name to Moses. So by this time she was already using the name Moses, which I actually love because for a lot of people they might not know.
Yes.
For a while, right?
Right. And yes. And I think that it for me, it did, even though I knew it, but it was almost a guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I started to become kind of unsure, like maybe it's not Harriet, but I know it. So you're saying Underground Railroad, and what else can it be?
Yeah. Who else can it be? And another amazing thing about Harriet is that, she had visions. She had visions.
I didn't know that.
So she would have, she was hit in the head when she was younger. And after she was hit in the head, she began having visions and would say, God was speaking to her and was telling her, especially on the Underground Railroad, would tell her where to go. And the fact that she didn't lose one passenger all the times that she went back, I have no doubt that she was led by God.
Yes. And not to give it away, but she gave premonition on several occasions through the book.
Yes.
I mean, literally, and I'm sitting there like, okay, why are you still going to move forward?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's the truth. Don't we always get like messages not to do things and we're like running towards them?
Yes. I've come to the realization that God speaks to us, and people say, well, God doesn't speak to me. Like, yeah, that God speaks through your spirit. When you're somewhere and like something gives you that intuition to stop or don't go left, but go right or keep straight or turn around, that is the spirit talking to you at that point. We tend to choose to go into our own understanding.
Yeah.
So thus, unlike our ancestors, we lose the opportunity to be able to connect even deeper through spirit.
Yeah. And which, hopefully we really begin to remember who we are. Right. Which is really connecting to that. Like almost every person that obviously I know because I have connected with spirits and I do see things. So I don't need like proof in that way. But I'm telling you, every Black person I've said this to, they have said either them or someone in their family has that gift.
Now,
everyone.
And I have a question for you because I've heard this, that for a person who is able to see any form of spirit, you can't see good without evil. So you got to see both sides of the fence. You can't see just one or the other. Is that true or false?
Well, I have seen both, so I guess it might be true.
Yeah.
But it's almost like when they say there's the good wolf and the bad wolf, and which one do you feed, right?
Yes.
So when I was younger, I didn't know how to discern.
Yes.
And as I've gotten older, it's much easier to discern. So I move through what feels good, right? And move towards what feels good.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Okay, now I have to ask the opposite question. What was the hardest part about writing the book?
Ooh. So this book took me 7 years to write.
Wow.
2 of those years, which I add in, were I did not write at all because I had writer's block. And I would say that the writer's block, that was the most frustrating because I knew the book was in there. And every time I would open my computer, I would get literally nauseous.
Wow.
Like, I can't write.
Don't feel it at all.
Not at all. And so another literary agent, who's not my agent, but just another one that I knew, had told me, he said, if you get writer's block, walk away. Don't try to do it. Just wait until you get the inspiration again. And, luckily I wasn't on
Timeline.
Timeline. We'll see with my next ones. But luckily I wasn't on a timeline with this one because it had its own journey inside of me. Like perhaps I needed to get to a point in my life personally to even understand what Yamaya needed to say next. So it grew with me, I would say. And that was the hardest part because I didn't understand what was happening.
So for the readers, how do you think that they're going to, how receptive do you think they will be when we're talking about a deity, a goddess, spiritual world? How do you think that they will, most readers will take that? Well, how receptive will they be?
I think that I feel like Beyonce has opened up a lot because she's done a lot with that energy as far as Oshun and Yemaya and just introducing those goddesses to the world. And I think if we approach it like this is one of our stories, it doesn't mean like something that you need to follow and worship, like it's not,
yes.
You don't need to, it's a story. So kind of approaching it in that way, that it's a story, would absolutely help.
Okay. Good answer. Now, I enjoyed the book. And I can see virtually anyone reading, but then the more I read it, it almost fell into a space of a YA book.
Yeah.
What was the intentional demographics for the book?
It's so funny you say that. I wrote it as a YA.
Okay.
My publishers wouldn't be happy for me telling you that, but I did write it as a YA. But as everyone wrote it, they're like, this needs to be an adult book. Like adults need to read this.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I know with Charlemagne, he definitely like shares it as a YA, right? So
okay.
It's funny, but it is an adult book now. So we changed it into an adult book. And I feel like so one of the main reasons I wrote this was when I remember the day that they began to teach about slavery in school. And even though my mom had told me about it, it wasn't in a space of, right, like all these white folks around me, like all of a sudden looking at me and I'm sitting here like, all right, I'm not as good as everyone else in this room. And so what I wanted to do was write a story with a badass character, Black character that takes place during this time that was so painful in American history.
Yes.
So that we can rewrite the way we learned about that time.
Then, well, you did a great job because it does show a woman, and you don't beat around the bush to say that she's a Black woman, because she gets caught into the mix of society, even though it kind of gave a little tidbits of, even though she had dark complexion, she still did not look like. But just because the white men saw her, they just perceived her automatically to being an African.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's how they put us all in the same pot, just because of the color of your skin.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a different journey. It's such a unique journey. The Africans that basically the African diaspora, right?
Yes.
This follows the African diaspora to the Americas, right? But we were spread out all
across. Yes.
All across.
They touched all the islands. I found out from another author who wrote a book who talked about slavery, Vanessa Riley, that didn't realize this, out of all the little history I knew about slavery, that between Haiti and the other Caribbeans actually had more slaves than America. But
I did not know that.
I didn't know that, but they're slaves because of, it was so much going between South America, all the islands. It was more slavery there than what was in America, but we put so much emphasis on America, than any other country. But like you said, they all landed at different islands before they even came to America.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole journey. And I think for a lot of us, because we have been cut off from our mother tongue, I don't know how to speak any words from my ancestors are from Nigeria and Ghana. I don't speak any word of that.
Anything, exactly.
I know not much about the religion, right? Or the spiritual practices. I don't know anything really about the culture other than what I've seen or what maybe some of my friends have shared with me. And so it's almost like we're the sons and daughters of the diaspora who
are lost.
Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old adage is that, so much history has gone to the grave. I absolutely know zero about my African heritage, but I do know more from my Indian heritage because of from whence they came and how we got here. But the complexion of my skin tells you otherwise. Like, you black, period.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you anything about from how far back, but I can tell you more about who my great-great-grandfather was, who was Creek Nation.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you anything else. But
Wow.
I don't look like what they say an Indian is supposed to look like.
And I love that you brought this up, because within the book, we do have the relations between the indigenous and the black, which is
exactly
so important and beautiful. And so I'm excited to see how that.
And that's a whole nother story that we don't tell, and we've heard different stories, and because of how the perception of the white man has divided and conquered so many nationalities, it's hard for even Indians to relate with blacks.
Yes.
As well as our Latinx as well.
Yeah.
Because we have planted the seed of poison, and it has rooted itself into our communities.
Yeah.
So here we are in 2021, and there's still so much hatred and bigotry just amongst the people of color.
Yes. Yes. Very true.
Very true. And all because of the history of what was planted.
Yes. And what is so amazing, I tell my kids that, is that no matter how hard it's been, how hard they've tried to keep us down, they can't. Because
they can't.
Keep coming.
We keep excelling. You look at it now, we pretty much made it. Here it is 2021, and you had 3 sisters who were at the top of the game, who were in gymnastics and swimming and in track.
Right.
Then you got the girls in, excuse me, the ladies in tennis, you know,
Yes.
and despite the fact that you're trying to crush this sister because she has her mental capacity can't handle to deal with interviews, you're going to ostracize her.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you got two new generations of women of color who's dominating the sport of tennis.
Yes. Yeah. And there is, it, I don't get me started. I
Right.
just have to make sure I
That's a
don't
whole other
finish off.
conversation.
Exactly.
But I say that because it's inside your book, because you do have, we're not going to get into too much of it, but you've showed the allies through those, the Quakers, and those are the ones who wanted to help. And they
Yes.
had to be very secretive about it.
Yes.
Because otherwise they could be killed
Yes.
just as quickly as a Black person
Exactly.
for just lifting and raising a hand to help. So you touched on a lot of those things that is real. And it's even real now because people are ostracized. They don't kill them, but they, you know, we saw what happened in Washington, in the Senate and Congress.
Yeah.
Cheney kicked off of her post because she believed in something.
Yeah. Yes. They're killed in a different way.
It's a different kill.
Yeah.
So what is next for Anita?
So what's next? So I'm currently writing, how would I explain? They are sequels, but it's not the way that you might think a sequel would be. I am writing
a sequel, kind of a sequel of Shallow Waters.
So it's more of, I want to see how much I can share without giving it away. It's a sequel in a sense that I am doing stories that are similar about different Orishas. And the Orishas, the two different ones that I'm writing right now are Oshun, who is the goddess of sweetness and the in life, and then
interesting.
Oya.
So at some point will they all come together?
Maybe they will. I like that. But right now I don't have them coming together, but yes.
Right now that's three more.
Yes. So now you just added another one. So that's good. Let's hope.
Hey, that's how you got to build a franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But before we leave, is there any part of the book or passage that you would like to read that this moves you?
Yes, I would love to. I have my book here. So I love the beginning, so I'm going to read that.
The beginning, you mean the beginning meaning like the
prologue.
The prologue.
Yeah.
Before you read the prologue, question for you. Why did you come up with the cocoon, like butterfly metamorphosis, versus how they depicted in some of the movies where a mermaid is just able to go just to teleport or transform into a human?
So when I said I felt like Yamaya was sitting at the bed telling me the story, she just told me that's how it happened.
Okay.
And to me, when I was writing it, it felt more realistic. Just to change anything, like to even heal, like if we have a cut on our arm, in reality, it doesn't just heal automatically.
Instantly, right? That's
and
correct.
So it felt more realistic to me to have it be a process rather than just instant.
Okay.
Yes.
I like that. I like that.
Yay. Okay. A long grunt escapes from my lips. My body is numb. I cough up the last gulp of water I had taken in and held before I passed out. As I sluggishly blink my eyes, one thought repeats in my mind. I have to break through as soon as possible. I didn't need to breathe during the transformation, but now my need for air is urgent. My nerves awaken from the inside out. I can feel the change in my body. Everything is different. My eyes are dry. I blink a few more times in the darkness, working to clear away the crust that has formed over my lashes. Slowly, I become aware of a dim light penetrating the shell of my cocoon. The sun's rays reveal a complex webbing within the shell's walls, strong enough to withstand the ocean's waves. My body stirs, and I can feel the shrunken cocoon chafing against my skin. I pull away from the rough interior. Something's wrong. I'm lying on my back and I can feel the pod is still, no longer bobbing along the ocean's surface. I have to get out now. I push with every molecule of my body, but it's no use. The shell is as hard as rock. I fumble in the darkness, trying to find the last section of the cocoon that I had sealed, in hopes that it might be a bit softer. My fingers meet at the top of the pod, and I use my thumbnail to puncture a small hole. A bright beam of sunlight streams in and momentarily blinds me. As I had suspected, there's no water. I begin to panic. Where am I? I need the ocean's pressure to help me break through the shell. I frantically chip away at the small hole in attempt to push one of my newly developed legs out. The sensation of being able to move my lower limbs independently throws me off balance. They flail weakly as I try to maneuver them over my body and thrust them up and out. Although I've watched humans walk and dance and kick, I don't know how to use these new limbs on my own. I grip the backs of my smooth thighs with my hands and pull my knees toward my chest. It's so strange to feel skin and not scales, to have no control over what was once my powerful fin tail. I position my feet at the top of the cocoon and kick the damaged shell with all my strength. The debris shatters away from my body. Stunned by the bright sunlight again, I clamp my eyes shut and roll over. I strain to push myself up and wobble as I attempt to stand steady. For the first time in my life, I'm vertical, held upright by 2 feet. I squint through the tears and I'm terrified to see that I'm surrounded by a pack of them, humans who I do not recognize. They don't look like the ones from my home, but I'm somewhat relieved to see that they don't look like the pirates either. I'm completely exposed. My body trembles so violently, I'm afraid I will collapse.
Awesome. One thing I like about the passage, the various chapters of the book, and it is so realistic for most of us, that people can see the greatness in you, but you can't see it in yourself. Everyone knew who she was, except for herself.
Yes, you got it. You got it.
You know,
Yeah.
But all she knew was what she knew, and that's kind of how we are in life. You know, and growing up as children, if you're around negativity, you know, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, you're stupid, you're dumb.
Yeah.
You would not have become the Anita that you are if you heard that every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, think about how many children hear that every day and every day, and they grow up to be what they chose not to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the tongue is powerful. So
very.
I do appreciate the book. Great book. And I want to make sure that we, you know, talk more about it. Keep us posted on what's next.
Absolutely. I will. This was amazing.
It is. Is there anything that you want to say before we go about the book that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, actually, as I was reading, I thought about it. So my younger sister, Michelle Kopacz, actually read the Audible. So people do purchase the Audible.
Interesting. Okay.
They will hear my sister. So when they asked me to read it, I actually thought about, like, who did I love hearing stories from when I was younger? And it was my sister. She loved to
awesome.
read to me, even though she was my younger sister. She was only a year and a half younger than me, but she would read to me and I loved listening to her. So I wanted to bring that in and bring in the energy of sisterhood. So
what an honor. That was a great honor. Was that the first time she's ever read anything for you? I mean, for Audible?
Yes. It was. And I don't think it's going to be the last because they really loved it.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That is awesome. But ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with the author, Anita Kopacz. She is the author of this great new book entitled Shallow Waters. It is available now on blackbookstore.com, and make sure you pick up this copy. Well, Anita, I want to thank you very much for joining me here at Rolling Out Sunday Stories. It's been an honor to talk with you and talk about your book.
Thank you. Such an honor.